and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm Nick McDaniel. He's Myron Fancher. How the heck are you, buddy?
Oh, I am doing okay today. As usual, the body is running slow and the mind is running slower. But we will be here to inform people all about wrestling as usual. Where can they find all that news, Nick?
Well, man, look, I appreciate you leading right into there. Obviously, join us over at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/, the handle's at Tapped Out Pod. That'll make it easy for you to find it, folks. But we are as well on patreon.com/Tapped Out Pod. You get the show early, you get the extra stuff. We dropped a new interview yesterday. I guess timetables, I'll be damned when we talk about how I dropped it when we're recording on a Wednesday, right? But again, YouTube, make sure you're liking the page, subscribing to the page, and make sure you click that little bell there, because that way anytime I drop anything, like I did a surprise interview and I dropped it late last night late Tuesday night, you would have known immediately when it was released, as well as on Patreon. And look, a little extra stuff. I did something fun the other day, Myron. Just dropped a little list. The Midnight Rider kind of sent in a new list again, and I was like, hey, man, I appreciate you. So a little movie list. So check that out as well. That's over on our Patreon page as well. But look, we appreciate everybody supporting the show, but the absolute best way you can support the show is our newest sponsor here on the show, Dubby. That is right, Dubby. The best ways to find them is dubby.gg on their website. And everybody's asking, a couple weeks ago, we announced a sponsorship with them. And they're like, who's Dubby? I'm like, look, Dubby's been around for a long time, dude. They've been around since 2021, and they partner with streamers, gamers, content creators, all of that kind of stuff. And why we are like a big fan of the product: zero sugars, no artificial flavors, colors, or dyes, no secret formulas, nothing's hidden behind, hidden ingredients. So the mystery meat, as they might say, of the product, gluten-free. But here's the other cool thing: all of their flavors are unique and custom made by Dubby. You're not going to taste this stuff somewhere else. It's just to them. And listen, not only that, Myron, if you're one of those guys that are running out and you're buying those, energy drinks out of the gas station and you're paying, I don't drink them, so I don't even know. But I've heard people talking like $4, $5, $6 a piece. I'm like, why would you do that when Dubby comes down to about $1 a drink? They have a package you can buy that has the shaker and the can, the cans, the powder that you can mix it up yourself. Save all that money. Stop going to Starbucks. Stop stopping by the gas station and buying those canned drinks. And most importantly of all, made right here in the USA. And that's why you want to support it. Dubby.gg. Look, I post the link on time to time on our social media. But if you go straight to the webpage, put in that promo code TappedOutPod and get 10% off your first order at dubby.gg. Again, promo code TappedOutPod.
Man, and if you're in the independent wrestling business, they got a hydration drink for you so you don't get dehydrated at these super hot shows. They got those energy drinks, because I know y'all guys drink energy drinks all the time. It's awesome. Great stuff, folks. But when you're getting this show, we want to say thank you to America. Cue the Lee Greenwood music, Nick. You're getting this on 4th of July, the birthday of America. God bless America, and thank you for listening to the Tapped Out Podcast, America.
Yeah, man. And look, it's a huge weekend, in wrestling. It's Money in the Bank. That, look, and ironically, it's in Canada. Ironically, right? It's not even here in the U.S.,
and Heat Wave.
Yeah, Heat Wave's going to be there as well. We'll talk about that for a little bit as well. But look, a lot of people were talking about Money in the Bank is secretly has kind of crept up the pecking order.
Yeah,
because it doesn't guarantee you a world championship, but it seems like if you win Money in the Bank, there's a pretty good chance, because all of the odds are in your favor if you play it correctly, that you're going to be able to win a world championship or WWE championship, whichever one. And I think so over the years, progressively, the importance, it was just one of the other ones, one of the other 8.
Yeah.
And now it seems like, is it number 5?
Easily. Ever since I saw the Hardy Boys do a ladder match, I've been hooked on them. And Money in the Bank to me is just so cool. Just so cool. I love it. I enjoy the drama and the slow climbs up the ladder. Hell, I can get up the ladder faster than some of those guys. But the drama it builds Man,
Who would have thought? Do you remember that this thing started as a WrestleMania match? Like that a match, that just designed at WrestleMania essentially would go on and become like a PLE now, but pay-per-view at the time, but a PLE. Oh, yeah. That's kind of unique that, that's kind of what happened. And it, like I said, it has become like super important. And look, we'll talk about the title matches at the end or whatever. Let's talk specifically about the Money in the Bank matches. Are you more excited for the men's or the women's?
That's hard to say. The women's, I think the women's is more, how do I say this? It's more about giving somebody a chance. You've got Chelsea Green, Lyra Valkyrie, Tiffany Stratton, and Zoe Stark. Those versus also Io Sky and Naomi. You've got 4 names that I consider people who could use a big chance. Lyra Valkyrie's new, or Valkyria. Sorry, that's a tough one for me. Tiffany Stratton, who is a super upcoming talent. Chelsea Green, who is popping up, getting everybody. Zoe Stark, a lot of people don't like her. I think she's terrific. These people could instantly move up the ranking in the women's division by winning this. Io Sky has been a women's champion before, hasn't she?
Well, she won last year. She won the Money in the Bank last year. So I don't think they're going to go. I don't think they're going to go back to back. Yeah.
Exactly. So they've got people in here who've been there. They've got some new talent that could benefit tremendously from it. So it's more of a who gets a chance. The men's match.
Pause. I only want 2 women to win.
Who?
Chelsea Green or Tiffany Stratton. I think those are my 2 front runners.
Yeah.
And look, I publicly put it out on social media that my predictions are just horrendous at times, and especially on indie shows. But on big shows, I'm a little bit better. Yeah. I just think Tiffany Stratton's ready to make that leap, and I think they're so invested in her. Yeah. But I just think the character of Chelsea Green with that Money in the Bank, with a Piper Niven, with her, I think they could do some really cool stuff. I don't want to, and it's not a knock on Io Sky. She won last year. Naomi doesn't. I don't know that they're going to put her back in the title picture again.
But she
right now, she doesn't. Zoe Stark still got some. I like her, but I think she's got a little bit more to go. And I think Valkyria it's a little early in her jump to the main roster. That's why I think that those 2.
With Piper Niven at Clash of the Castle, I think Chelsea Green really got her chance to shine. Her character, that worked out real well for her. The men's Money in the Bank is going to be awesome, though. If we look at the men's, these are really, really well-accomplished men's wrestlers. Okay? Carmelo Hayes sticks out as the new guy to me. Mm-hmm. Jey Uso is just Jey Uso. Carmelo Hayes, your rookie. Andrade, we don't know enough about how good Andrade is here in America. I think there's a lot we don't see about him. Chad Gable is a phenomenal talent. LA Knight is one of my favorites. He's phenomenal. Drew McIntyre, please don't give it to him.
I think that's your winner.
Yeah.
Here's
he's boring the living shit out of me.
Wow, him and Punk are like so good right now.
Yeah,
the second he got on Raw. So on Raw, not only does he say he's going to win, he says he's cashing in the same night, and he's going to leave Money in the Bank the world champion. And my brain immediately goes into them. So here's what I think. I think it goes one of 2 ways. Drew McIntyre's about to win, and CM Punk cost him the Money in the Bank to set up their match at SummerSlam. And if that happens, I would probably argue Jey Uso maybe. But I think more importantly, I think the biggest thing they could do, McIntyre wins. Later in the night, he tries to cash in, and CM Punk cost him again. Like because think about that. Earlier in the night, Drew McIntyre wins Money in the Bank. And during the Damian Priest-Seth Rollins match, he tries to cash in either after or before, whatever. And I think CM Punk interferes and cost him the title. And that makes, because look, it's all been the build of how bad can CM Punk screw over Drew McIntyre. And I
So
think
Drew McIntyre won. Did he win from Seth?
No. If Drew McIntyre.
No, I'm
you're
talking
talking about at Mania. Correct.
Okay, and then Damian Priest cashed in. Damian Priest carried his briefcase forever.
Yep,
cashed
for almost
in at
a year.
Mania.
Yep.
And CM Punk interfered
and cost McIntyre the match.
McIntyre the match and his brand new belt
that he had for 5 minutes. Yep,
they had for 5 minutes, and then it turned around, and McIntyre catches in on Priest.
I think after this match, we'll get to who we think wins, but I think McIntyre tries to cash in on whoever wins that match, and I think Punk cost him the title. And
when is Hell in a Cell? Is that coming up? We got to get these two in a cage.
It's October. It's October.
Okay. Well, we can't. We'll get to that.
Yeah, but I think that's it because the story totally revolves around CM Punk just constantly causing havoc for Drew McIntyre. So that's kind of how I would see that playing out. So, and let's look. I think that's your Money in the Bank matches. But I think I could make a case. One of the matches everybody wants to see is Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental.
Oh, yes.
They have absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, slapped the rocket on the back of Braun Breaker.
But they put him against the right person, Nick. That spot last night, that Sami promo on Raw, or not last night, I watched it last night. But that Sami, when Braun did that whole thing where he charges around the ring and Sami jumped over him and he went right into the ring step, I don't remember a lot of stuff, exact details, but that just locked in my brain when I saw that. Sami is the perfect guy to go against him. Sami's the perfect guy to put him over. If you really, really want to put the kid over, Sami's the right guy to do it. Sami's super popular in Toronto. Sami's Canadian, right?
Yes, that's the $1 million question. Is the kid ready to be the Intercontinental Champion? tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Let us know. I'm curious as to what everybody else thinks because I have an answer that's probably not popular. I don't think so.
I think we're about to find out.
We are going to find out for sure, obviously. But I think my point was I'm just like, I love everything about the character. I love everything about the gimmick. I love his style. The energy he comes off. He's just young. Is he ready to be like the Intercontinental title? Now, I may be an old guy and I'm putting way too much stock in the Intercontinental title. Like I'm thinking of back in the day. Maybe that's my fault. And I'll accept that.
Yeah.
But is it just way too soon to take a belt off of Sami, the Intercontinental title, and put it on this kid?
I was backstage at a show and I was talking to somebody. I'm not going to say who it was, and they're like, "Man, he works like his dad, and he talks like Scott." I'm like, well, as long as he doesn't talk like his dad, I think we're okay. There's a thing we got to worry about with him. If he fucks this up, he's in trouble. He's got this massive rocket. If you catch him out drinking, or you catch him slapping a woman, or he says something
Can I say
stupid,
this? I'll tangent with what you just said. I think the system that the WWE built, and it's not perfect, by the way. I think the system that they built and the culture backstage is so different than back in the day. I don't think those guys are doing that stuff like that as much. Like I've heard, like Taker talks about, like he goes in a locker room and guys are sitting around playing video games versus playing cards and drinking. It's just, and I think now this younger generation, good or bad, leave it at that, grew up in a culture where like, hey, you can't do that. Like you can't. This will get you in trouble. Like a lot. There's still obviously where it happens, especially in sports in general. It happens more than I can't even imagine that it happens as much as it does. It just seems like as a whole, maybe I'm wrong, the younger generation of wrestlers seems to get it more, and they just stay out of that kind of stuff for the most part.
I hope so. I'd love to see this kid. go forever. I just when you talk about though putting a rocket on a young kid and putting an intercontinental title on a young kid, you just get paranoid that the young kid's going to get online and say something racist, or you get paranoid that the kid's going to,
See, I don't, because here's the thing I also like to bring up. I want to ask you this. How about we not put the sins of the father on the son?
Well, you could do that with me too. If you didn't put my father's sins on me, I'd
But
be a lot
that's what
better off.
but I'm saying, like, that's, so I always like, let's see what happens. I just meant from the experience standpoint, nothing personal, nothing in his personal. I just meant from the experience standpoint. Is it just too soon to slap that Intercontinental title on him? That's my worry. Is like, because there's a lot of responsibility. Because then, is he going to become exposed in the sense of he's got to go out there and defend that title, longer matches, more. Not that he can't do it, but I think those are my concerns. It's just from a sheer wrestling point. Is he been in the business long enough to ready to have that pressure of being the Intercontinental Champion? I think that's probably where I was going.
Okay. Wow.
But look, two guys, and I'm specifically leaving a match out of order because I want to jump to the World Heavyweight Championship match. Damian Priest, Seth Rollins, they've done a really good job. I saw a lot of people complaining about there's too much Judgment Day and too much throughout the Raw and story, and I'm like, dude, they're building to the point, like, we think we know where this is heading. There's a really fun piece here, and I'm going to come up with something crazy. By the way, this could arguably be one of the most interfered PLEs in a long time. Like, literally interference, and you could almost predict interference in every single match. You literally could. I'm not going to, but you could. If Damian Priest loses, not only does he, not only does he lose his title, he has to leave the Judgment Day. If Seth Rollins loses, no more title shots. Like, he's done. Like, he's out of the picture with Damian Priest.
Okay. That makes sense. I like that.
You kind of book yourself into a corner unless you're just completely trying to get Seth Rollins. Like, you know how we talked about it a few weeks ago with, like, Jade Cargill being a tag champion essentially that was her excuse not to be challenging for the women's championship.
Yeah, that was a good thing.
Is this the way? Because, like, if Seth's involved, how do you sidebar him out where he's not worried about the title? Well, the only way to do that is he loses this match, and then you're like, okay, he can't challenge, so we never have to explain why he's not chasing the title.
That would make sense. And then again, with Becky taking some time off, maybe Seth takes some time off. Maybe they have another kid.
He just got back. He can't. I just meant he can't. Like, if he's on the show and he's not, he always wants to be champion. Seth always wants to be champion. Like, you got to explain why he's not chasing the championship. Like, you got to have a reason.
Yeah, that would work. I can see that.
I'm going out on a limb and Nick's horrible predictions of all time. I actually think Seth Rollins potentially wins this match.
I would pick that because I definitely think that not Braun Breaker, Jesus Christ, Damian Priest is out of the Judgment Day already. The frustration that happened when they came out and Finn Balor attacked Seth Rollins, and it pissed off Damian Priest. And then Seth Rollins came back and he tried to kick Finn Balor, and then he kicked Damian Priest too. And Damian Priest had to reluctantly stop Seth Rollins. All those names almost got me. That was a scene, and the tension is building. The Judgment Day is falling apart. Liv Morgan is just don't want her in the clubhouse. She's bringing chicken nuggies.
She's in there playing video games. She's in there with them. You know what? There's one line. I'm not saying it was a throwaway line, but there was one line that was on Raw this week that made me give you what I'm about to give you. Is this maybe it's not crazy, but I think it's a crazy prediction. Finn Balor made a throwaway comment potentially that since Damian Priest won that title, he hasn't been the same. He's a different person. And it led me to believe, where I think stuff's going to go sideways, Finn Balor will cost him this match. Somehow, some way, he will lose the title, and he'll be out of the Judgment Day because I think Finn Balor believes he should be the leader of the Judgment Day, not Damian Priest. That's what I think happens. And by the way, the more the story goes deeper, I think there's something more involved with Liv Morgan and Finn Balor than there is Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio. So
I think the
crazy.
coolest thing coming out of this is Zelina Vega is getting an amazing run as somebody who's been neglected by the WWE or made a side piece for way too long. I think she's getting to show off how good she is. So whatever happens, this whole storyline has worked out real good for everybody in it.
Yeah, and I think that's what people maybe underestimate. I think the story, and I know there's a contention out there that it's too much Judgment Day. I think it's pretty good that we've involved. Dominic's got a big story. Liv's got a story out of it. We know it's building to her and Rhea when Rhea returns. Obviously, the tensions with Damian and Finn. Carlito being added to the mix. JD McDonough along for the ride. I mean, there's lots of... I love it when it's at least tangling in a lot of pieces and it's kind of leading somewhere. But that's just... Look, that's a whole different thing. Last but not least, we got to keep it going. We're going to go forever in a day here. Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens versus the Bloodline. Now, here's the contention. It's got to be Solo and Tangaloa and Tamatanga, I guess, because the $1 million question is, can Jacob Fatu actually get into Canada? I don't know that he can, so I don't know that he'll be there. We'll see. I don't know the legal stuff, so I'm not making a guess. I don't know that he gets in. So I'm just going to assume it's those three.
I trust the WWE with whatever happens with this. I also am dying to see what happens with this with the wise man.
We will get there. I mean,
I can't wait till Friday. Friday.
So let's jump in. Look, you can't wait till Friday. Can't wait till SmackDown. Okay, well, here's the problem. Are we actually going to see it or hear it?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Couldn't see it or hear it last Friday. I was lucky to see that good stuff that they put on Friday.
I wanted to ask you this because we had like in our little text group, we were messaging back and forth. I asked you a question because, look, obviously there was the audio going out, then the screen's black, and there's censor, and it turns out like WWE's like it's essentially Fox is the one censoring SmackDown. And I understand it. Like I think there's a part of us that we talked about, like we get it. Like you can't be dropping FUs so loud that it's like F-bombs on a broadcast. Yeah. That's where I think we agree. Just clip the audio. Don't kill the picture.
They did that. They did that in NXT last night, which is on USA, which I know is a cable channel, but this is a perfect thing. There were some chants on NXT. Yeah. They were muted. End of story.
You're on a delay. Everything's on a delay, so you got a dump button there. And the thing that kind of we were going back and forth was like when it first happened, like, look, you stream, I stream. We're not watching cable, blah blah blah. Huh. So we're like, oh, is the internet out, or is it like, is it glitchy, or
like, my
so
internet
we're asking,
is messed up. What's going on? Because I was actually watching it live because I rarely watch them live. But I was, I'm not bedridden, but I'm on rest. I'm not supposed to be on my foot because I broke it ankle. So I'm laying down in bed watching it on my tablet, black screen, long audio periods. So I'm like, what the hell's wrong with my Wi-Fi? What's going on? And then I check the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi's fine. Because, my internet's went in and out a few times lately. Wi-Fi's fine. Well, what's wrong with the signal? That signal's fine. Well, WAF is messing this up. No. Everybody look on Facebook. Everybody is blowing up on Facebook. What's going on? My internet, the whole time, it's NBC. Or not NBC, sorry.
Fox.
Yeah. Clipping it. And then all of a sudden, I'm watching Nia Jax, who, I'm not president of the fan club, but I'm executive treasurer of the fan club. Denovius, that Denovius fellow runs the fan club. I just answer the mail. She blacks out. They black it out. She's coming down the ring. They blacked it out for a little kid shooting a bird. As someone who was a little kid who shot birds at wrestlers, that's insane.
But here's the thing. I think, how about you just switch camera angles maybe? I mean, there's got to be another one.
Who would have noticed a little bitty tiny hand?
I think, like, I get it. But here, that leads us to the question, Myron. Let's get to the heat of it, where we were kind of going back and forth. Like, guys, and I'm not saying are the wrestlers or not are the fans to blame? Because you're at a TV taping. By the way, this was not the first week this happened. This is kind of why I asked that question. This has happened in other weeks prior. It wasn't as bad as this, but it happened in weeks prior. If it gets so audible, by the way, you want to talk about the negatives of drawing 13, 14,000 people at a TV taping? If a chant like this gets going, it's loud, it's noticeable, and this is what happens. Yeah. When you've got 3,500 people in the building and the chants start, but it's not real audible, you can kind of get away with it because it's muffled. I understand the heat part when they bring out Tyrese Halliburton.
See, this was beautiful
from the Pacers. Yeah, they did that phenomenally well.
They set up a heat moment, Nick. They set up a heat moment. Game 7 of the NBA playoffs, the Knicks lost to the Pacers in Madison Square Garden. They go back to Madison Square Garden. They bring in a Pacers player that helps the heel. The Knicks player helps the babyface. Okay? Logan Paul's brass knuckles are given to him by a Pacers player. Of course, the chants are going to start. Of course, the crowd's going to go nuts.
But can you do heat without the F-bombs, especially knowing you're on TV?
Yeah,
here's my thing.
But that's the crowd.
No, that is the crowd. And that's kind of our point.
But they were set up. It's New York. You know what New York crowds are going to do?
I would love to know what people, tapoutpod@gmail.com, are the fans to blame for it? Did they just do when they know they're on TV, especially when you know you're on a broadcast show? It's not like you were on, like, look, when we get to Netflix, nobody cares. Go full bore, who cares? But like knowing you're on broadcast television, like it's kind of, I think that maybe the answer is yes. I think the fans can, like, you can be a fan, you can boo, you can cheer. No matter how many heat spots we've seen on indie shows, how many F-bombs have you thrown? There's also, by the way, there is an aspect of it this way, which is horrible to say because I'm on old fuddy-duddy, send all your hate mail, tapoutpod@gmail.com. It is also a family show.
Yeah, but it's live TV, and the people are internet guys. They're internet assholes now. People want to get noticed for using F-bombs. People want to steal scenes.
So, okay.
People want to take over shows.
So it is the fans to blame then.
Okay.
That's what you just said.
Yeah.
Because my argument is if you can't control yourself at a show to the point where you don't, and it's, like, oh, well, you shouldn't bring your kids to the show because I have every right to drop F-bombs. Really?
I don't think you should drop F-bombs.
I
think
don't
you
either.
Should behave a certain way. But
you can boo, you can say you suck, you can whatever. It can be controlled, and I think that inlines the problem. But Myron, I can tell you what cannot be controlled, and that is clearly Solo Sikoa and this new Bloodline.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Let's come back to what you addressed earlier. I will tell you this is one of the things that the crowd got right. I love this crowd reaction. Paul Heyman, when he drops the line that he will not acknowledge Solo Sikoa as his tribal chief, and the bloodline, the new bloodline, just annihilates Paul. That crowd, it popped like crazy. One of the best pops we've heard in a long time for Paul and his reaction. But then the shock and the boos and the F-bombs began to ensue when the bloodline just absolutely annihilated Paul Heyman. How wild and crazy is that?
Oh, man, Nick, I'm telling you, that scene was perfect. When Paul came out there and his eyes were red and he was more badly shaven than me. Paul, whose appearance is always perfect for a fat man, okay? He's always shaven. He's always perfectly dressed. He looked, as William Regal said, like an unmade bed, okay? Mm-hmm. He looked like he'd been up for days, worried, and he's just unshaven, red-eyed, looking like hell. And they bring those beads out, and when they brought those beads out, he just panicked. And then when they put him through the table, and he laid there just like a bag of rocks. it was so perfect. Could they put him in the Hall of Fame twice for like something else he did?
They've put other people in there for like there's that are in there 2 or 3 times. So
Booker T's in there twice.
yeah, but he's tag team and sing like he's a manager. He's Paul. We'll see. We'll see, right? Like maybe time will tell. But
that's the best performance I've seen in a long time.
Oh, you could debate. I'm really excited. Like, how far is this going to go down the road? We're looking at the imminent return potentially of, look clearly let me ask you this, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. I want to know how crazy of a reaction are we going to get? By the way, could it potentially be at Money in the Bank? That's where the $1 million question lies, right? When Roman finally returns, because the crowds have been chanting it every week now. We want Roman, we want Roman. We heard the reaction that Paul, when he just simply wouldn't acknowledge Solo. When Roman appears, my take is, hot take of the show, could be the loudest reaction we've had since we've heard Glass Break, maybe. Like, literally, I think it's going to be bananas. I just can't even imagine how loud it's going to be.
Jimmy turns babyface. Jay comes out with him.
See, I think they're going to do, here's how crazy is this? I trust the story process that they're doing in WWE right now. I think those pieces, it's not one night. I think that's going to be weeks. I think Roman returns, and I think he adds Jay potentially. Then Jimmy returns. You see what I mean? I think we're going to see weeks, because here's what I think. I think if we get Solo versus Roman one-on-one at SummerSlam, Roman has no help. I think we see the new Bloodline essentially dismantle Roman at SummerSlam. And then we add a piece, and we add a piece. By the time, because think about it, we're talking August to November. He has to assemble a team to put forth to face Bloodline versus Bloodline at Survivor Series. So we could be talking months of him assembling and adding pieces to his team, because that's where we are in the WWE. And again, if you disagree, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. That's where I think we are in the creative process, that it's a month. Like, because if Vince McMahon was in charge, honestly, I wouldn't be shocked within 2 weeks if Roman had his full army, put together around him. But I think with Triple H and that creative team that's there now, this could literally be milked for months, building his team till we finally eventually get that one-on-one. And you want the crazy thing? That's months from now. Months from now.
Run the commercials and the go home. I want to sit here and excitedly wait for SmackDown, because now I'm excited about wrestling. Thank you, Triple H.
Yeah. And look, thanks for him doing what he does, man. Every single week gives us something to talk about. And everybody says, hey, that's why we have a podcast. If you disagree, start your own, man. And I couldn't tell you even better. Libsyn.com is the place to do it. Go to Libsyn.com. Use the promo code TAP. They'll give you a couple months for free there. Again, Libsyn.com is the absolute best place to distribute all of your podcasts. Why? Because it gives it anywhere and everywhere. When people ask us, what platform are you on? And we tell you everywhere. It's not because I sit there all day and do it one at a time. It's because I upload to Libsyn, Libsyn.com, and it just does all of the work for you. They can even help you do your advertising, everything, all under one place. So sign up, Libsyn.com, use that promo code TAPPED, and get up a couple months for free. Well, Myron, look, it wasn't just the WWE weekend. It was a huge weekend for AEW. They have their, it is one of the unique pay-per-views they do. AEW's Forbidden Door was this past weekend. Look, we got to be positive and negatives. There were pluses and pros and cons, pluses and minuses. Call it for what you wish on this PLE or their actual pay-per-view. Jesus, WWE's programming me. I'm even calling them PLEs. Kudos to AEW. A $1 million gate. Nothing to sneeze at. That's always been kind of a real high water benchmark, for wrestling gates. Over 10,000 people in the building. Great shots that were out there. Look, kudos to them. Say what we want about their TV. They're still drawing at pay-per-views.
Yeah, more power to them on that, man.
Yeah.
That's their thing. They can do it. So keep it up. I mean, they book a pay-per-view card. They may book 15, 20 matches, but it's what their fans want. Their fans love it. Tony Khan is good at that. He's good at putting on showpiece cards. He books like a touring independent show that doesn't have to come back to the same town. He puts on a card that is more, let's see these matches type stuff.
Let's self-deprecate for a minute. He booked Forbidden Door. It was Hell Freezes Over.
Yes.
Too long, but we got everything we wanted in, and it happens. Let's talk about some of the positives first. I can't reiterate enough to people how much, and it's not always my style, by the way, how much I enjoyed Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay in the main event for that world title.
How was Swerve? I didn't watch it, I'll admit. How did Swerve, was he able to keep up with Ospreay?
1,000%.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think that's where I think this match happened for a couple of reasons. Look, there's some rumors out there, say, call it whatever, that Will Ospreay was tired of hearing the narrative that Swerve Strickland was a placeholder for the title until he was going to win this thing at Wembley. He's like, Swerve needs to be elevated. There was also talks of guys like not wanting to lose to Swerve as the champion. And Will Ospreay being a locker room leader, as short of a time as he's been there, stepping up and going like, anybody should be willing to lose to the world champion, and I'm going to go out here and do it.
Well, that's admirable.
And so, yeah. I know, look, some people are calling this potentially a match of the year candidate. You might want to pump the brakes a little bit on that. No.
Late in the year, usually they start that on the January 1st.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's not, but like, it's, I'm like, okay, well, let's see. But I cannot tell you, and again, can't reiterate enough, the match was amazing. It was last, like it should be, and it was like, it sent people home in a happy way. I hope that was kind of what it was, because other than like, I was trying to remember, other than Britt Baker's return, the rest of the card, 14 other matches, all things included, were okay at best. There was nothing else on the card, and that's my opinion, taptoppod@gmail.com, send your hate mail. There wasn't anything else that I went, that was amazing. There was stuff that was like, that was good. Mercedes
MJF versus Church of Chia Pet.
Okay, here's the crazy thing. The reason I thought that was so negative, that's kind of basically what kicked off the pay-per-view. And it literally felt like, by the way, he's not the only one. Don't get me started about the Young Bucks. I felt kind of like quasi like MJF mailed it in. The Young Bucks as well. It just kind of was what it was. I'm not saying the match was horrible, but it was kind of like ho-hum. It was so, and I think that set the tone. Like, they always talk about the first match sometimes sets the tone for a pay-per-view. I felt like that was the case. It set the tone for the pay-per-view, and not in a good way. And yes, 15 matches, way too much. I understand. Let me ask you this. If you're going to give me a 5.5 hour pay-per-view to try to justify me spending $50, how about you give me 7 really good matches? You don't have to go 5.5 hours. You don't have to go 15 matches to make me value the $50. Because tappedoutpod@gmail.com, quality over quantity would be a very big thing. I understand, we're looking at a Money in the Bank card that's got 5 matches on it advertised. I understand. Look, it's a PLE format. It's on a streaming service. You're not buying it. It's included, so you don't feel ripped off. Do you feel like your product isn't good enough that you have to give me 15 matches to justify the cost? Make the product better and shorten those things, because those fans were exhausted during that pay-per-view. That is my honest take.
I'm not going to watch that much wrestling, Nick, at one sitting. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to watch that much wrestling at one sitting. I can't do it. Why torture yourself with something you love?
Myron, there's a reason we were thrilled to death when WrestleMania went to 2 nights, right? Because we didn't want 5.5 hours.
No, I can't do it anymore.
Like we're not even crapping on AEW. We didn't want that much WWE.
No, I have old age ADD. I don't know if that's from just being old and can't do something. I have to get up to pee because my prostate is swelling, or I just have problems with doing anything that long anymore. It's just a problem for me.
And I don't want to do it. The other problem with this thing is, oh, by the way, well, I'm not even going to go there. I was going to mention Jack Perry. How ho-hum is that he's the champion? Like, that match, A, wasn't good, and B, just did you do it just to justify the moves? Maybe.
Well, why in the hell would you put a title on somebody who caused you so much damage to your promotion in the first place?
Look, they're doing their best to turn that negative into a positive, so I kind of appreciate it. I just didn't think the match was that great. Let's just go with that. But the question that I really wanted to ask before we move on Forbidden Door, Tony Khan has hired Okada, the Bucks, Omega. Slowly over time, he has literally hot take of the show number 2. Tony Khan is a response. Like I know he owns Ring of Honor now, but all of his hiring in the early stages of AEW is what killed Ring of Honor.
Yes.
Now he's slow. Like he's not going to kill New Japan. I get it, folks, but he's not helping it right now. He's doing a pretty tough job on pulling a lot of those. By the way, I'll be fair. WWE's kind of doing their part too.
Yeah,
pulling talents from them as well. But my question was: is Forbidden Door even a special thing when Okada is on the roster and they see him wrestle every week?
Yeah.
The Bucks, Omega came over. You got Takeshita, you got Tanahashi, like Naito. All these guys are wrestling on AEW television. So, like, what's the big deal about a Forbidden Door if you can see them on a quasi-semi-regular basis? It doesn't seem like it matters at all.
To me, that's hurt a lot of the forbidden part of it. I'd rather see one guy run out from another company like Jordan Grace and the entire card like that. It's more special to me when that happens.
But it's not a big deal because she's not on NXT every week.
Exactly.
That's why it's special, because it's actually like, yeah, that's what I meant by, like, we have a working agreement. Like, okay, if I can see the guy from CMLL or AAA wrestling on, Dynamite, then why is it a big deal that he's wrestling a guy from AEW on Forbidden Door?
Exactly. And I'm all excited about Slammiversary because we don't know who's going to come over or if anyone's going to come over. And I'm going to buy a TNA pay-per-view because I'm excited to see who might show up from WWE.
Yeah. Clearly, we think Regal's kid's going to be involved in that with his appearance that he just had. So,
yeah,
but that'll be cool again because it's not, I just think over time, it'll be cool that they're working together, but the luster of like, oh, we never thought this would happen. Okay, guys, that's getting gone pretty quick.
Well, you think someone will buy New Japan? Do you think WWE or AEW will buy New Japan?
I think there's Japanese laws about it can't happen because it's a Japanese company. I don't think you can. So that's a whole other conversation.
Okay.
But look, that wasn't the only hot button news out of AEW this week. Tony Khan, basically in an interview says that he believes that Shaq is the best celebrity wrestler of all time, ever. We rattled off a few, like pretty quick, like that we thought were better. Again, our opinions. You can agree to disagree.
There's nothing wrong with Shaq.
No, and by the way, Shaq has done WCW, WWE. He's done them all. So Shaq's been involved across the board. Not saying he was a bad appearance. That's not it. Should we start at the top or should we work backwards? Is the question of all the ones that we hit.
It doesn't even matter. I don't want to quantify these people because they're celebrity wrestlers. There's people who have accomplished more as celebrity wrestlers.
So let's start with one that I kind of, the obvious answer that everybody ran to. The biggest pushback he got was Logan Paul. Logan Paul's a wrestler at this point, right?
He's the best as far as talent-wise, as training-wise, sponsorship. He's brought his own sponsor with him, okay? He's brought money. not just talent wise and viewers and eyes. He's brought money into the company. So he's put on great matches. He's done crazy stuff. To me, he's the most important as far as the impact he has made, Logan Paul. Now, you'll hate me for saying that. There's been other people who at their times were more important. But overall, the impact he's made has been greater.
1,000% as far as the impact. My question was more, I don't know that he's a celebrity wrestler anymore. I think he's just a wrestler. He's become a wrestler at this point. Now, in the ring, it wasn't even close between him and Shaq. So let's be clear there. But from a true celebrity standpoint, what about Bad Bunny and what he did with Damian Priest in that street fight that they put on?
Phenomenal job.
Yeah. The running joke, I'm not going to say that next name.
Come on.
No, I'll get there at the end. Stephen Amell, he performed really well.
Did
and
very
when he
good.
came in, yeah. So and he's done it a couple times, by the way.
Did a TV show about it.
I would argue the fact that and it was against Adam Cole when Pat McAfee wrestled him in NXT. Then Pat would go on and have his WrestleMania moments, and Pat performed really well. So
I love.
I would put Pat up against the Shaq appearance by any stretch of the imagination.
Yes.
Culturally, now really this next one there's a disclaimer. Culturally, where wrestling was at the time, we all glorify the Monday Night Wars and talk about how great it was, etc. Dennis Rodman coming in, you could tie the Karl Malone aspect to it as well, because when Rodman came in, it was such a thing. Wrestling was probably at one of its greatest peaks of all time, the Monday Night Wars, and people forget that Rodman was in the final, he was a Chicago Bull, he was this. They were on he was on one of the greatest teams in NBA history.
Couldn't have got bigger.
And he delivered from a personality standpoint more than an in-ring, 1,000%. I'm not debating that or whatever. So culturally, I would even put Rodman against there. Now, Andy Kaufman was a creature I'll ask you this: was Andy Kaufman at a disadvantage because of the era in which he did it? Because it was back in the territory days and not.
Yeah, well, yeah, he did not make a big enough impact as he would have on a global scene like it is today. He got mainly stuff he got covered because he was a star. He got more influence because he was on the David Letterman show when him and the King got into that. That probably got bigger pop. He got around on Memphis. It was a great thing he did. I thought it was an amazing gimmick, but he got Jimmy Hart involved. It was terrific what he did, but since it was a territory thing, I don't think it got as much pop as he would have. If he'd have done it today, it would have been a much bigger. But
I think legacy-wise, Andy Kaufman could be the answer. Because we still talk about it to this day.
Oh, yeah. There was a movie, Man on the Moon. People talk about people even joke that Andy's still alive. Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Lots of
But come on, you got to say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Because I was jokingly going to throw out David Arquette, but it was a kind of a joke. And look, there's a hindsight. Look, we had a debate here about Arquette being champion. And people like to beat that up. Arquette did, I've had the pleasure of meeting David Arquette once at an indie show. David Arquette didn't want to be champion. He thought it was a terrible idea. David Arquette didn't keep any of the money he made from wrestling. He gave it away to families that, wrestling families like the Owen Hart's family and stuff like that. It wasn't his idea, dude. But what is he supposed to do? WCW was in a financial situation where, look, you're co-promoting this movie. All your talents are in it. It was just kind of look, was it a bad idea? You could make the case for it. But at the same time, if financially they may have been in a situation, we don't know because we weren't there. I always like to say that, it's easy to judge not knowing how much pressure was on them to actually make a move like this. Look, it wasn't the best decision in the world, but it was not the death nail that everybody tried to make it out to be. Let's be honest with you. But I didn't like it at the time, still don't to the day. But let's pump the brakes a little bit. But sometimes sometimes your decision making is all subjective. But I'll tell you what's not, Myron. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for pressure washing, window cleaning, gutter cleaning, any of that kind of stuff, there's only one choice, and that is jmartinandcompany.com. That's right, our friends over at jmartinandcompany.com. It's who we trust our business to, our family's business to. I don't recommend anybody any higher than I do jmartinandcompany.com, because not only do they do commercial, they do residential, they do both, all the above. Hey, you're a builder, you need somebody doing your neighborhood, your subdivision, all things. That's who you call, jmartinandcompany.com. Give them a follow on social media, specifically Facebook. I always find that's the easiest way to get a hold of them. jmartinandcompany.com. Give them a follow. Shoot them a message and say, hey, need a little work done? They'll get you a quote, get you an estimate. Boom. Take care of you. That's it. Our friends, jmartinandcompany.com. Absolutely the best. Nobody else we trust with all of our pressure washing, window, and gutter cleaning. But Myron, listen, now let's keep it rolling. We're about to run long, and we can't do that. Let's talk about, look, one of the hot news out of NXT.
Yes.
Video comes out. Literally, it was last night. I sent it over to you.
Yep.
Brooks Jensen, look, tangles into our indie world here. Bull Buchanan, his father, has Bullpen Pro Wrestling. Been teasing. He's made an appearance there. They've been just crushed social media all over the place, man.
They've been crushing attendance there too. I mean, they got this whole buzz going on. It's helping them with attendance. Bull's little brother's work. Brooks's little brother's working there. His dad's got the show. They've had great gate numbers. They got this all over social media. It's the talk of the whole show.
Yeah, because everybody's like, is Brooks going to show up? That's it. Like, there's been so much. They have done a spectacular, when I mean they, WWE NXT has done a spectacular job with we have no idea. Like, look, you can kind of go like, okay, it's a work. But then it's just like, they're using social media. They're using the background of TV. It wasn't even stuff that was happening on, like, it was like, it happened on TV, but like, what was that? Like, stuff in the background. Lots and lots of tools that they're using. And how cool is it? But then Shawn Michaels comes out, basically cuts a video and says, next week on NXT, Brooks Jensen's going to have a sit down with GM of, NXT, and they're going to talk about his future, basically give him a second chance. How crazy is it that they're doing this? And by the way, how cool is it that they clearly are that invested in this guy? This is a young talent. Regardless, we forget how young Brooks Jensen is.
We've seen him work.
Yeah.
We saw him. It's another one we saw in the ring, in person, before he got signed. That's why I love going to indie shows.
Yeah.
He's a young man. He's a good talent. They're clearly doing this bit, and it's a good gimmick. It's a really and you watch WWE working across all these platforms, Nick, not just television. They've got a show on YouTube coming out tonight on Wednesday. Okay, a YouTube special coming out. How crazy is that?
Yeah, finally, that damn.
They're using YouTube. They're using social media. They're using everything they can to cross over. And now they've got this kid's storyline that they've used every single possibility to work on. And it's worked out great. And they've made you feel sorry for this kid to a certain point and identify this kid. And you want to help him, but you don't know. And it's compelling. I don't know who's writing this, but this is the coolest storyline I've seen on NXT in a long time.
And I do think it says two things. One, it shows that they're willing to try some new things, to do it the way they're doing it. But to me, it also says a lot about what they believe and how much they believe in Ben Buchanan, Brooks Jensen, that he's the one that they chose to try this project with.
Yeah.
So we're excited for the kid. Like, look, we saw him when he was, out here in the Indies on Georgia working. And it makes me excited for NXT, the things they're trying, and excited for him because clearly at this point they're invested in him and they're going to do something with him, and that makes us excited.
I love it.
Now comes to the part two of somebody they clearly are not invested in anymore. And it's a question segment, by the way. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Send all of your questions, your comments to this next little segment. Dijak is clearly, I guess, his contract's not being renewed. They're not giving him an offer. He put a post out about it. He's obviously not real thrilled about it. and I understand. Let me, in part one, we discussed this a few weeks back about how they're going to negotiate contracts. They're going to treat them like athletes. They may just let contracts run out. Like, he wasn't released. He wasn't fired. He just wasn't offered a new deal. It was that simple. Are wrestlers ready for this? Like, that was part one question. I don't know that wrestlers are ready to be treated like athletes in the way of how contracts are dealt with. And what I mean by that is just, hey, man, we just don't see the back. I think times are changing, especially with TKO being at the head of the table.
Nick
there,
Khan,
as far as
TKO, they're used to professional sports. They're not used to wrestler and the wrestling business.
I don't know that Nick Khan is. I don't mean this in a negative way. Nick Khan's not utilizing his time worrying about contracts. Yes. I think that's a Triple H level and below probably. But the personality is being adopted in the sense of like, hey, we're going to treat them like athletes.
Yeah. Culture, business culture.
I understand people are disappointed. I understand he's disappointed. You know, fans were commenting about like, dude, just not that long ago, he was in a main event on an NXT PLE. Like, how could they just, you know, my question is, tappedoutpod@gmail.com, was that the peak of what they saw his value for? Like, hey, we got everything we're going to get out of him. There's nothing left. There's no more. And like, I'm not saying there isn't. My question is that simple. Is that what they saw? There's no more juice left to squeeze from this, you know. It's just time to like move on.
Well, I mean, he didn't have much of a personality, just my evaluation. He had that run with the T-bar and the mace and all that crap, that run. He had got drafted. He went back to NXT. They squeezed him. They squeezed him really hard. And they tried him as hard as they could. And they decided, yeah, this is not really what we want. This guy does not match out with what he doesn't seem to fit our puzzle or whatever you want to call it.
My question's back to being an athlete where this is not a popular take. Do they look at Dijak and say, we're not saying he's not good.
Yeah.
We're saying there's times that there's a receiver, there's running back specifically in the NFL. Like, we've played him for 3-4 years. He's performed well. We're not saying he hasn't, but we're saying he's plateaued. He's ceilinged. Yeah. There's nothing left. Maybe it is time. The old saying of maybe it's time we let him go. He goes out, he reinvents himself, and we see something.
Learns a new hold.
Yeah, we've got McIntyre, etc. Has all done.
We've got 5 other tight ends. We're going to give them more playing time. We're going to let him go to a team that's got
cheaper.
Yeah, we're going to find other tight ends that can play cheaper, just like an NFL team, just like you said. You know, there's other ways to do this.
Now, the big course comes out now. This is all rumor and innuendo. There was also thoughts that he possibly was a leak for Sean Ross Sapp and for Fightful. Well, if that's true, I don't know. And I'm not saying it is true. But if it was, my question would be, what are they supposed to do then? I gave you an analogy, and I said, hey, it's not going to happen. But if I said, if Roman Reigns was discovered to be a leak for Dave Meltzer, you'd figure out a way to work around it. You know, hey, you can't do this kind of thing.
You'd be like, stop that, Roman.
If Dijak does it,
don't tell Roman anything anymore.
Is Dijak just not worth the headache? Like, where do you play? Like, we always talk about, like, yeah, you coach everybody equally. No, they don't. The star quarterback always gets treated like way better than the third string guard on the, you know, offensive line. It's just fact. It happens. So I think, is Dijak a second string guard down in NXT that they were like, look, if this is true, you're not worth the headache. Just let his contract run out and let him go. What would you do? tappedoutpod@gmail.com. If those rumors were true, what would you do other than let him go? I just don't know what you could do. Right? I mean, what are they supposed to do? I don't know. So, but I will tell you what I do know, Myron. You should be subscribing on our YouTube channel, youtube.com. The handle is @tappedoutpod. Like that page, subscribe to the page, turn that little notification bell, go click, turn that thing on, so that way every time we release anything, you're going to know. By the way, same way on Patreon, patreon.com/tappedoutpod, because there are things, by the way, that are on YouTube and on Patreon that are not on our podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, all that stuff. Look, every week you're going to get 2 shows there. Every now and then I'll drop something extra, but typically that is not the case. You're going to get the national show, you get the indie show, and that's pretty much it on the audio. But hey, I know a lot of guys, that's kind of their wheelhouse. That's what they do. Just subscribe to the audio podcast. We appreciate it. Give us a 5-star rating review. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode in case I drop something extra. You never know. But look, we appreciate all the support we've had over all the times. And again, if you want to support the show, the best ways to do that, support our sponsors, whether it's jmartinandcompany.com, Dubby, Lipson, the podcast are always in. And Myron, look, it is 4th of July week.
Yeah.
Pro Wrestling Tees is doing a big sale this weekend.
Yes.
So check them out. Look, we'll put put it up there with a promo code and all that good stuff as well.
The Tapped Out shirts are great. The Tapped Out shirts is great. Before we get out of here, Nick, though, I want to I want to congratulate a longtime friend, longtime listener, Daryl Saylor, for getting inducted into the Rotary Club of Schaumburg, Illinois. Good job, Daryl. A great man, loves his customers. He owns a couple of Chick-fil-A's up there. Congratulations, Daryl.
Congratulations, Mr. Saylor. So, well, that's everything I have this week. Lots of stuff. Hey, look, be safe this weekend. 4th of July can be crazy. People shooting off fireworks and drinking a little too much and doing all that kind of stuff. Watch your fingers.
Stay sober.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all I've got, man. You got anything else before we get out of here?
That's all I've got.
Well, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing, you've got nothing. What time is it?
Time to tap out.